Today we're dashing through the sand with some wet-on-wet flip-flops. Hi, I'm Leslie with Leslie's Cookies and Treats, and if you love decorating sugar cookies or you want to learn how, you're in the right place. Let's decorate together. So I hope you're ready to slay summer. Everything you need is listed in the description, so let's decorate. My royal icing is a little bit thinner than I usually use today because we're going to be doing a wet-on-wet technique, but I'm going to start by outlining the entire flip-flop with white royal icing, and I'm going to stop and drop my line down at most of the curves and then start again going around the edges so I can keep my line right up next to the edge of the cookie. And if your outline isn't perfect, don't worry about it. We'll fix it when we flood it in. And now I'm going to take my white icing and I'm just going to make lines going across the flip-flop at a slight diagonal towards the inside. I'm going to try to keep them all about the same distance apart from each other. If you want to, before you outline your cookie with your royal icing, you could take a ruler and an edible marker and outline where you're going to put each one of your sections so that they're even, but I'm just going to eyeball it. And now that the outline is done, I'm going to start by flooding in this bottom section with my white royal icing. My consistency is looser than I usually use. It's about a 10-second consistency, and I'm going to go back in now with my red icing immediately. I'm not letting anything dry, and I'm going to flood in the section right next to it. And then if needed, I will use my scribe to settle down each section and make sure it's smooth before going on to the next one. And then I'm going to immediately take my white icing again and flood in the next section. Again, my icing for both the red and the white is about a 10-second consistency, and I'm going just to continue in this method until all of the sections are flooded in. And by piping wet icing right next to wet icing is what we call the wet-on-wet technique or effect. And when it dries, it will be one solid surface. There won't be any lines of separation once it dries. One thing you do need to be careful about, though, is that with looser flood icing, it does tend to overflow the edges, and so you can just wipe that away with your scribe if that happens. And continue filling in each section of your flip-flop just like we did before until you get all the way up here to the top, and then go ahead and fill in this last little section and use your scribe to get it all smooth, just like we did before. And then I decided to add a little green stripe to my candy cane flip-flop here, so I'm going to touch down and then drag a line across each one of the white stripes, wiping off my tip of my piping bag in between each one. And my green icing is also about a 10-second consistency, and it should blend right into this white flood icing. And then once you finish that, set this cookie aside to dry while you go ahead and outline the other cookie, and then follow the same process to fill in all of the sections. Then I actually let my cookies dry completely before I came back in using the paper piecing method and just traced the topper part of the flip-flop onto my cookie. And if you don't know how to use the paper piecing method, I'll leave a link to that in the description. And so I'm just going to outline and flood this little section in. My icing consistency here is about a 15-second consistency, so I can go right up to the edge without worrying that it's going to overflow. And I'm going to give this a generous amount of icing because I don't want any craters in this area. Then I'm going to use the scribe to make sure that my icing gets all the way down to the cookie. It's nice and smooth, and I pop any air bubbles. Again, I don't want to get a crater in this area. And then I set this cookie aside to dry completely, and I'm coming back in with some royal icing transfers that I made. And I'm just going to put a little bit of royal icing on the back and also on the flip-flop to fill in the crater I did get on this flip-flop, and then attach my royal icing transfers. I'm going to put down 3 pieces of the holly, and then I'll add some berries until I have it looking the way I like it. So just put a big dab of royal icing onto the cookie here to support this transfer that's going to overflow the edge of my little flip-flop topper here, and then set my transfer down. And then I'm just going to put some dots down and attach my holly. And as you can see, I put quite a bit of holly down before I had it the way I liked it, and then I moved on to the next cookie. And that's how we totally slay summer. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. And if you enjoyed these, check out my other flip-flop cookie tutorials for more wet-on-wet summer fun. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy summer!